The Flash number 11, written by Francis Manipul and Brian Buccellato, art by Marcus Toe. Last issue we left off with the whole weather wizard, mafia family thing. Whatever. This issue doesn't relate. So we open up in Keystone City, which I guess is like the worst of the two towns between Keystone and Central. And a guy in a trench coat's trying to check into a hotel. Some other dude bumps into him, knocks off his hat, and we see, oh my god, he's horribly disfigured and he's called a freak. To which point we discover that it's heat wave, heat storm, heat stroke. What the heck is it? Heat wave, that's it. His name's not until like 6 pages later. But anyway, heat wave, and he starts burning down this hotel. So then we go to Barry Allen, who he is supposedly dead because of the boat that disappeared into the Speed Force, and so he's just living out in Keystone City, trying to blend in without drawing attention to himself. And he's all pissed off because his friend Dr. Elias is talking smack about the Flash and saying how bad he was. And so then Barry's like, all right, well, first things first, I need to get a job here in Keystone. So he uses his Speed Force thinking to focus on how to get a job. And then he's knocked out of it by some guy bumping into him on the street. And he's like, cool, I know exactly where to go. And he goes down to this local saloon that is apparently like the hangout place for the rogues. I don't know if he knew that. They don't really make it clear. I don't think he did. So he goes in because he knows there's a help wanted sign. And he walks up to the bartender. He's like, hey, could I be a bartender here? And he's like, yeah, okay. You definitely are way too spunky for this bar. But here, I'll give you a beer. So he gives him a beer. Barry goes bat down for his wallet and realizes that that guy who bumped into him earlier was actually pickpocketing him, so he doesn't have any money to pay it off and offers to work it off instead. Meanwhile, we see a dude hitting on a girl at the bar, and turns out it's Captain Cold, and he gets turned down pretty hard. So let me just get a 2-page spread of not relating to the rest of the book, where it's just Patty being chewed out by director Singh, I believe is his name, for basically doing the whole Weather Wizard arc. And she's like, I don't see what the problem is. I went down on my vacation time, I took care of it on my own, and we closed a case. Like, what's the problem here? And he's like, you could have died, Patty. You're not a detective, you're an analyst. Like, you want to do a detective? Do it the right way, for God's sakes. And he offhandedly mentions how we need you because Barry's gone. And she, of course, doesn't take that very well because Barry's gone. So she walks out in a huff, and we see that the director is also all messed up because there's arson all over the city, and a paper says that the Pied Piper is back, who is his boyfriend, like, clearly. So then we get an interview with Dr. Elias on some morning news show, and basically he's sitting there like, yeah, you know what? Vigilantes, superheroes, overrated. Me, I'm the real deal. I cured the energy crisis, and I did it all on my own. I didn't have any help from any Flash. Definitely not him. So keep an eye out on me, because I'm gonna change the world. And then we see a TV in the bar is playing this interview, and it's immediately smashed by Captain Cold, who throws a beer pitcher at it. And he's like, man, this sucks. I can't even drink my drinks because every time I do, these now natural cold powers freeze them before I can. To which Barry chimes up and says, hey, bartender, can you mix together this crazy concoction? And he does, and it passes like a fruity little drink over to Captain Cold. And he's like, what in the hell is this? And he's like, it's mixed in a way that it's not going to freeze. Like, it's impervious to freezing. So they introduce each other. He's like, hi, I'm Len Snart, what's your name? And he's like, you can call me Al. And then as soon as he introduced himself, Heatwave busts in saying like, hey, Snart, me and you, we got problems. And Barry tries to get in the way and be like, hey, I sort of kind of work at this bar, so maybe let's not fight. And he's like, this bar belongs to the rogues. I'm a rogue. Who are you? And he's like, all right, bye. Throws him outside the window. He immediately transforms into Flash, runs back in, try to stop the fighting between the two of them. And he basically just gets in the way of the pair of them as the rest of the people run out. And basically Heatwave is pissed off because Heatwave also has natural powers now, the same way that Snart does and the same way the Weather Wizard does. And he's pissed off because he literally cannot live anymore. And Flash correctly puts together like, hey, those arsons in town, was that you, Heatwave? And Heatwave's like, genuinely? I'm barely even trying to do that. Like, it's just a temper thing. So They're getting into a fight, and Flash tries to calm it down by causing one of those like cyclones that sucks out all the air and knocks them both out. So Iron Heights police show up. They arrest the pair of them, and it's just like, well, I think I'm doing an okay job as Flash, despite the fact nobody else thinks so. And who knows, maybe Al can have a long-lived career here. So we see Heatwave and Captain Cold in the back of the police car, and it's just like, all right, yeah, you say you got a problem with me, and I'm sure we'll sort it out in prison. We'll see what's up. And as soon as he says that, Golden Glider, a.k.a. Lisa Snart, a.k.a. Captain Cold's sister, phases through the bottom of the truck saying like, maybe you won't see it that far. And she is supposedly breaking them out, but we leave on that. Okay, sure. Again, I know that it's a pun, and I think I said this last time, is that this feels like it's moving at such a breakneck pace. Like, I'm okay with them rushing to introduce the rogues. I understand that the Weather Wizard thing was its own thing, like somewhere else, and he'll probably just arrive here later. But it just feels like we've introduced so much between the issues. Like, there's this one, not so much as between the last two, but this issue's just like, yep, I'm in this town, I faked my death, and now I'm just going to be living a new life. Like, that seems like major decisions to be made, but he's just like, yeah, no, that just happened when you weren't looking. So my only complaint is that. Everything else I'm good with. I think it's a good idea here to set up this sort of weird thing where they have powers now, because historically before the New 52 they didn't. And I like that. I like the fact that this isn't a thing where they're like, yes, untold power at my fingertips. They're like, no, this sucks. I can't live a basic life anymore. Powers suck. So it's an interesting take on it. I'm interested to see where it goes. So overall, I'm going to give this issue I give it a 7.5. I do really enjoy it, all things considered. I do think that this Pied Piper thing they've been setting up for like 5 issues now either needs to get it over with or drop it, because it's not, for me personally, it's not as big of a reveal as it seems to be. So whenever we get to that, let's just hurry up with it already.